on, Noah. Bros before Zos.
Say hi to the camera, cat.
Welcome to Amazingly Average, the show I advice for amazingly average authors and actors. My name is John, and two of my best friends have back-to-back birthdays, and for the last 4 years, I've always made a birthday song for my friend Sarah, whose birthday is on July 31st, and Devin's birthday is on the 1st, and I've always either been burned out or forgotten to make one for her, and this year I actually remembered.
Yo, it is your birthday and you're killing it in Washington. Karma counts a billion more days for you of random fun. Call me sore last cause I slept in years before I broke the song. Rap is not my strongest suit, but you're worth it cause it took so long.
Today's episode of Scream was titled The Vanishing. The Vanishing is yet another foreign movie, so I looked it up on Wikipedia. There's this Dutch couple named Rex and Saskia, and they're going on vacation in France. When they stop at a gas station, Saskia goes missing. Rex spends the next 3 years looking for her, along with his new girlfriend. There's this man named Raymond, who we find out makes a plan to abduct a woman. For 3 years, Raymond sends ransom notes for Rex to appear at this cafe, and then Raymond never shows up. He actually watches from an apartment building across the street from the cafe. Rex's girlfriend leaves him after looking for Saskia for so long. Finally, Raymond shows up, and he tells Rex everything that happened. Rex threatens to involve the police, and Raymond says that there's no evidence tying him to this crime, so it wouldn't do anything. Raymond tells Rex that the only way he can find out what happened to Saskia is to experience it for himself, and he gives him a coffee cup that's laced with some kind of drug. Raymond wakes up in a box buried in the ground, and then the final scene is showing Raymond chilling on this farm with his family. And now to this week's episode of Scream. We start in the morgue, and Maggie is doing an autopsy deal on Piper's body. They find a fresh pair of stitches on her long dead body. They open the stitches, reach inside, and pull out a pig heart. We jump to a scene where Emma is interrogating Audrey. Audrey claims that she knew that Piper was Emma's half-sister. Audrey's adamant that she believed Piper wasn't the killer. The only reason that she brought Piper to Lakewood was to make a documentary about Brandon James. There is a major piece of evidence to this story here. Either Audrey's lying or the plot has just thickened, but allegedly, Piper and Audrey were together on the night that Rachel was murdered. This means that there has to be somebody else involved with these murders. We go to the sheriff's station, and Acosta says, "If you see him, bring him in," talking about Gustavo. This entire episode had a lot of flashbacks between Maggie and Sheriff Acosta when they were younger in Lakewood when the original massacre happened. In this first bit of flashback, Sheriff Acosta thinks that Brandon James might still be alive, and Maggie's very defensive about it. And then we start the first of a series of flashbacks where Maggie goes to Sheriff Acosta's room at nighttime, knocks on his window, and leads him out to this tree in the woods in the dark where Brandon James is sitting there bleeding on the ground after he has been shot by the cops in season 1. Noah's in school, and he gets text messages from Zoe saying that he should meet her at the lake. This is setting off red flags because Zoe is a smart kid, so why would she be playing hooky? And Noah plays hooky at gym class just to meet her. This is out of character for both of them. Love makes you do crazy things, but why would Zoe be skipping school? When he gets to the lake, he gets text message directions from Zoe telling him, "Go forward this much, make a right, keep going." When Noah calls out to her or something, he gets a text from her saying something like, "Why did you stop? Are you scared?" Noah gets a phone call. The killer picks up, and he says both Zoe and Noah have to pay for having sex. And then Noah argues that's such an outdated horror genre trope. Why are you still going by that? The killer insists that if Noah doesn't keep going, he's going to kill Zoe. Noah keeps going through the woods. He drops his phone, he picks it up, he turns around and runs right into the killer and his knife. Falls on the ground, and he says, "It's not supposed to be like this." And then the killer knocks him out. Emma and Audrey are in school, and Audrey seems to think that they're missing some sort of big clue about who this killer is. They get a live stream video from the killer of Noah in a box buried in the ground. His phone call starts with, "How are my two favorite final girls?" He insists that they can't call the cops or anybody, otherwise Noah is going to die. Emma really pushes for involving the cops, and Audrey screams, protesting that they can't do this or the killer is going to murder Noah. There's too much at stake here. We jump back to Noah, who wakes up in this coffin in the ground, and he has a freak-out equivalent of Norman Bates from Bates Motel when he was kidnapped and in a box in the woods. When he starts banging against the wood, I was thinking that you need to conserve your breath, otherwise you're gonna run out of oxygen and kill yourself faster. It seemed kind of like an homage to Scream 3 when Randy Meeks had recorded his final piece of advice for Sidney Prescott in the event that he might have died, which is exactly what the Lakewood Six did in all their little videos on Twitter before season 2 started. What's up, kitty cat? We jump back to Noah in the box, and he hears Zoe screaming. I had an idea at this point about the killer, and I don't think that Brandon James would be the killer this season because in the party last episode, Haley went to give the killer a blowjob, and I doubt that she would do that for an old man, let alone a serial killer, unless that's your type. But we go back to Sheriff Acosta. We see another flashback of the night with Brandon James. Acosta and Maggie take Brandon James in the car to this house. They hint at the fact that they probably hid him behind this porch glass underneath a house. We jump back to the present day. Sheriff Acosta goes back to the same house. He investigates the house. He finds this secret room behind this pull-out bed in the wall, and inside the room on the desk there are a bunch of pictures of this blonde girl. Sheriff Acosta looks out the window. We see some hooded figure looking at Sheriff Acosta.
Is it Brandon James?
Emma and Audrey show up at Noah's house. They go through his room. They're freaking out, trying to find some clues about where he is. Emma sees a note pinned to the board of one of Audrey's letters to Piper. It says, "Emma abandoned me, that princess bitch. We need to take her down a few notches," or something like that. Emma is one step away from never trusting Audrey ever again, because Audrey wouldn't come clean about this in the interrogation earlier. Emma realizes that the clue is literally behind the murder board, so she takes it off the wall and finds this plastic bag with a daffodil. Daffodils were something that grew around this barn where they first met and became friends. And they talk about something where daffodils are like poisonous to horses. I don't know if I just misheard this. And Audrey thinks that the killer's bringing them there to ruin this perfect memory with this sinister side quest. Noah hallucinates that he's seeing Zoe when he's in the box, and Zoe's trying to keep him calm. I wasn't sure if this was some sort of sinister version of like a siren which causes you to keep talking and run out of breath and then suffocate in the box. But it seemed like Zoe in this episode was more so a comforting way trying to keep Noah alive. Noah says, "It'd be easier if I sleep," and Zoe says, "No, you have to stay awake." And at this point, I realized that Zoe in Noah's imagination is definitely trying to keep him alive. And she starts romanticizing the idea of their future together, where they can go to prom and they can go to Boston for college and go to MIT. And then she starts singing for him. By the way, anybody that didn't know, the actress Kiana Lede is actually a musician who plays Zoe in the show, so you should go definitely check her out. When they finally make it to the farm, they find that the barn is barricaded with this scythe. They take that off the door, open the barn, they get a gif of Jake getting sliced open with the scythe. There's this foul stench, and they find another pig on the floor, gutted. They freak out, run around, split up, look everywhere. They can't figure this out. The jig is up. Emma knows about Audrey's BS. Emma confronts her about it, and then Audrey spills the beans. Heartbreaking. Worst part about it was that Emma didn't even realize she was breaking Audrey's heart. When they finally calm down after this confession, they hear Noah screaming. They move the pig. Noah's buried underneath it. They dig Noah out and they save his life. He says, "I could hear Zoe screaming." They lift the coffin out of the ground. Under the coffin is a box. They open the box, and it is a phone with a video of Zoe in a box on the verge of drowning. They rush to go get Zoe. They go to the lake. They find the box where Zoe is. The live stream on the phone is still showing that she's alive. They open the box and she's already dead. The live stream had a lag. An homage to Scream 1 maybe, when they're at the party and there's a lag on Courtney Cox's video camera. Sheriff Acosta shows up at the farm, finds the unburied coffin, follows this trail of blood to this pig carcass hanging on the ceiling, which is very similar to what I read about in that biography about Ed Gein, where he hung a woman upside down like a deer from the ceiling. And on this pig carcass, they find a hand, which they think is a match for Mr. Branson. At the end of the episode, Emma and Audrey are holding hands at the crime scene, and I don't know if this is meant to mean well between them, or to sort of show the futility of the love between them. And it's interesting to note that up to this point, Brooke, Gustavo, Kieran, and Eli have all not been in this episode. I think everybody can count on Brooke not being the killer. So the strong suspects right now are Gustavo, Kieran, and Eli. I don't think it's Eli. We come to this touching scene with Emma in bed, and she's saying, "All these people that are dying, it's all on me." And her mom, Maggie, is saying, "It's not on you." There's a really long shot of Maggie's face where it looks like she's internalizing something, feeling guilty. And we get a last bit of this flashback. There's younger Maggie is in her room. She looks out her window and she sees a hooded figure run up to her tree and leave a note in the knothole, similar to Scout and Boo Radley from To Kill a Mockingbird, because this is what Maggie and Brandon James used to do when they were younger. She goes out to the tree, pulls out the note, and it says, "Don't forget me." We jump back to the present day, and Maggie puts a note in the tree saying, "Stay away from her." And when Maggie leaves, out of the woods comes Eli. I don't know what it is about helpless screams from women that gives me a lot of anxiety, but that really messed with me this episode. And now it's time for the killer prediction. I was never really angry at the killer before, but now I'm really angry at the killer. My obvious suspicion from the 1st to the 8th episode is wrong. It was not Zoe, because Zoe is dead. I'm gonna stick with my prediction from last week and say that it's probably Kieran. There's a strong chance that it's Gustavo as well, which would definitely be supported by the Scream movies where Mickey was the killer in Scream 2. Scream 2? Scream Season 2? Well, leave your theories in the comments below because I love hearing about them. You guys are actually really smart, so I have a lot of fun reading through these comments. Well, there you have it. That was this week's episode, and I will see you next time.
Were you sad that Zoe died? You don't care at all.